Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I forged a dragon door knocker with 3 railroad spikes. 1 railroad spike for the dragon and then 2 more for the wings. And then I used 1/4-inch plate for the back. So first I used an angle grinder to cut 2 slots in the base of the railroad spike, and then I used a hot cut tool to separate that material. Then I switched to the cross peen hammer and worked that material down to where it's flat with the back. So here I used the edge of the anvil to forge out the snout and kind of give it a little ridge where the eye's going to be. I try to keep everything even as I can. And then once I have it drawn out, I'll peen it back down to define the tip. And then I used a cross peen to kind of round over the center of the snout to give it a little more detail. And then I just make sure these horns are still nice and flat for now. I just chiseled in the lines to indicate where the mouth would be. I made an oval punch with a hole drilled right in the middle to make an eye punch, and that's what I used to make his eyes. And then I used the pliers to define how the horns are shaped. So now I'm going to flatten out the area for his neck. I'm using my custom straight hammer for this. It's kind of like a straight peen but flat. So then I used the bending jig to arrange the angle of his head. And then I used the hot punch and punch a 1/4-inch hole for the rivet. So then I'll do some half-face blows to separate the tail from the body. And then I'll draw out the rest of the body. That way it tapers down to where the tail meets the body. And then I forge out the tail into a tip and flatten it out and kind of give it the shape of a leaf. Then I go back to the bending jig and bend this out into the shape of the door knocker. Then I put it in a vise to straighten everything up. Then I use a flat punch to clean up some of the wrinkles on his head. So now that that's done, we can work on the back plate. I use 1/4-inch by 2-inch bar stock for the back plate. I cut it about 1.5 inches longer than the dragon body. So the first thing I do is hammer in a bevel all along the edges. And then once I have that, I'll skip a space and chisel in a decorative line to make a nice border. And then I use the ball peen hammer and fill in the texture inside that border. And then I drill some holes to make it a little easier to punch through so I can add the tabs. This will be my first time doing a mortise and tenon joint. I made the tabs so they could slip through the slots, and I made them long enough that you can peen the material over for a nice strong mechanical connection. And then I drill a 1/4-inch hole through both tabs, and then I cut off the extra material, and then I used a grinder to grind in a nice arch. Or you could just use files. So then I put it back in the forge, that way the scale will form around it. Next I'm gonna make the wings. So I'm going to use another railroad spike and forge out one of the wings. I use the cross peen hammer, and I always have it to where the line is pointed outwards. That way I have this nice texture on the wing when I'm done. Then I use the cut-off tool to cut off the extra material. I do try to flatten the wing as much as possible. That way I can bend it over 90 degrees and attach it to the tabs. Then I cut the extra material to match the tabs, and then drill the 1/4-inch holes for the rivets. So then I use a torch with the oxygen to heat up the rivet head and then peen over the edges. And then I use the beeswax and orange oil to protect the surface and lubricate the rivet. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you do like this video, please click the like button and subscribe for more videos.